Good morning, boys and girls. Today we will be reading chapter 29 of The Adventures of a South Pole Pig. Erlich was the only one outside when they came into camp. "Hey, the pig is back," he called. A limping sailor, hobbling on a wooden stick, came to the door of the snow cabin. Flora didn't like the way he looked at her. She would be keeping far away from that one. Erlich put out 3 small frozen fish, and Flora attacked. She looked up to see Sophia and Oscar watching. She felt a little ashamed, but still couldn't help licking the snow where the fish had been. It had been her first meal in 3 days, and she felt almost as hungry as before. Erlich scratched her behind the ears. "I wish I could give you more." His fingers moved under her chin. "I never met an animal with better timing than you when it comes to killing rats and not getting killed yourself. You are one smart pig. Now, we all need to figure out how you and the rest of us can stay alive until they come back." Flora glanced at the sailor with the stick. Men and animals all slept in the snow shelter together. The nights were getting colder, the snow shelter smaller, and kept the warmth better than the drafty cabin with a lifeboat as the roof. Most of the boxes were gone, along with the other dogs, so there was plenty of room. Erlich had made beds for the men by layering several blankets for padding. The captain spent all of his time on his bed, for he was weak and spoke very little. Flora decided she'd curl up against him at night to keep him warm. It was an easy job. Flora's knowledge about her role on an expedition was not the only thing that had changed during her time in the hole. She didn't feel the cold as she had before either. After those 2 days on her own, her body was able to handle the freezing temperatures. She could now stand being outside for several hours each day. She still kept up her trot around the camp, partly out of habit and partly so she'd be fit to run if the sailor got close. But the biggest change in Flora was that she no longer dreamed of dog sledding. She dreamed only about food. She was always hungry. One morning, Flora heard the sound of pounding. She gently pulled herself away from the captain's side and walked to the door. Erlich had found a hammer, saw, and nails. He was taking loose boards from the wooden crates and making them into a box. Then he dragged the lifeboat off the top of the empty cabin and banged it on until it fell apart. He laid out 2 curved pieces from the front of the boat, parallel to each other like sled runners. He placed straight boards across both runners, nailed them down tight, and then attached the wooden box he had made. "What does he think he's doing?" Sophia stepped up beside her. "It's a homemade sled," said Flora. They watched him tie a rope to the front of the box. He made a loop in the free end. Then Flora heard the captain's voice calling. Erlich ducked past them into the snow shelter. In a few moments, he reappeared, pulling the captain on a blanket. The captain's eyes were brighter, and Flora thought he appeared to have regained some of his strength. Erlich helped him sit up with his back against the wall of the shelter so he could see. But it was Oscar who took the most interest in the project. After so many days of rest, he seemed to be feeling much better. He snipped the loop at the front of the sled, walked around the whole thing, then stayed close to Erlich's side, even getting underfoot at times, especially when he bent to pick up the loop. A spark of Flora's old feelings flickered to life. She tried not to remember. She tried not to feel. "Stop it," she told herself. But her desire to run with the team, to come through when everyone was counting on her, maybe even have a crack at leading the pack, wouldn't go away. The truth was Flora wanted to walk, no dance, around the whole sled herself. Fiercely, she pushed away those thoughts. She crawled back into the snow shelter, into the darkest corner, and slept the rest of the day alone. But that night, in her dreams, she flew above the earth in a moonless sky. Behind her, like a falling star, sailed a silver sled. This ends the reading of chapter 29.